The last line of defense in election security is you, the American voter. So be prepared for efforts that call into question the legitimacy of the election. I'm confident that American voters are going to decide the 2020 election, and you should be too.
That was the former top cybersecurity official, Christopher Krebs, the week before Election Day. He was warning Americans to be on the lookout for efforts to cast doubts on the results. 3 weeks later, he was fired by President Trump. Krebs was let go Tuesday after a statement was released from his former agency that said there is, quote, no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. Now, the news last night came, as it often does, from a tweet after the president repeated claims about voter fraud that have repeatedly failed to be proven in court. The move was met with harsh criticism from Democrats and also disappointment from Republicans.
Do you have any problems with the firing of Christopher Krebs?
Well, that's the president's right to do it, but I don't think there was any interference in our election by foreign powers. Now, there may be some irregularities at the state level, but I believe that this election was secure when it came to foreign influence.
The president has a decision who he wants to have in office and who he doesn't have in office. From everything I saw, it appeared that he did an able job in a difficult and important role.
President Trump should be very proud of the work that his administration has done in the last 4 years regarding election security. Chris Krebs played a major role in that. And so I was very disappointed when I found out that he had been terminated.
California Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff joins me now for more. He is the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thank you very much for being with us.
It's good to be with you.
So this afternoon, Christopher Krebs appeared to push back on the idea that he contradicted President Trump. He tweeted this: I never claimed there wasn't fraud in the election because that's not the agency's job. It's a law enforcement matter. So, Congressman, why do you think Krebs was fired?
Well, I think he was fired because he wasn't towing the president's line. The president wanted his people out there saying the election was rigged, the voting technology was terrible, it was switching votes. None of that was true. Chris Krebs wouldn't say it was true. And quite to the contrary, I think Chris Krebs' statements made clear that the election was conducted as it should. And that people needed to be aware that there would be these false claims about the election. Well, the preeminent purveyor of those false claims has been the President of the United States, and Donald Trump just couldn't stand that. This has been the story of the Trump administration, firing official after official for doing their job, being willing to speak truth to power, and that's what Director Krebs was doing.
Well, as the Republican senators mentioned there, President Trump is within his legal right to fire Christopher Krebs. So why the criticism?
Well, the criticism is because of the reason he's being fired. There's an issue about, do you have the actual capacity to fire someone? Nobody questions whether the president can actually fire someone. The question is it in the interest of the country? And it's certainly not. No one has criticized his performance. He did very well. He helped to safeguard our elections. He was helping to safeguard institutions right now from malicious hackers who are encrypting data of hospitals and cities and trying to extort those entities for ransom. So he was doing his job very ably. And I think it's a terrible shame to a dedicated public servant to fire them for doing their job. But more than that, firing him at this time when our nation is very much at risk and we need our leadership in those positions is just dangerous to the country. So frankly, these GOP statements that, well, the president has the right to do it, that's not the point. The point is he's doing it for a malicious purpose, and it's not helping the country.
Well, along with Secretary of Defense Mark Esper, Krebs is now the second high-profile firing during this lame duck period. What concerns do you have about the outgoing president's imprint on the government before January 20th, Inauguration Day?
I have several concerns. The first is that, he's getting rid of good people like Director Krebs. The second is that he's replacing some of these folks that he's firing in this last act of vengeance before he's out the door. He's replacing them with people who are either not qualified or purely political and partisan actors. That's not in the national interest. And some of those people are putting forward policies that will either box in the Biden administration or make their job more difficult. If you look at, for example, the last-minute moves to draw down troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, being done without consultation with NATO allies, being done without consultation with the incoming administration, that is going to diminish Joe Biden's leverage in any negotiation with the Taliban. Now, why would you do that? It's not in the national interest, but Donald Trump thinks it's in his personal interest, or he thinks it's in his future political interest. And he has always put his personal interest above those of the nation. But it is damaging, it's dangerous, and it's going to make this transition even more difficult.
I'd like to ask about your party's leadership. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was just renominated for what she suggests will be her final term in the post. Your party's majority shrunk in the latest election. At the same time, the left wing in Congress is growing with representatives-elect like Cori Bush and Jamal Bowen. Do you think that Speaker Pelosi is the right person at this point to guide the party's apparent changing direction?
I do. I think she has a unique skill set and incredible talent. She has been able to keep our caucus together when we have the most diverse caucus in history. She has kept us together through thick and thin, through all the travails of the Trump administration. And she'll keep us working to make positive, progressive change in the Biden administration. And the fact that she really has no opposition to speak of is a tribute to her skill and the fact that the caucus recognizes there's no one on a par with her. So, yes, I think she's the right person, and I have every confidence she'll continue to do an incredible job as Speaker.
Well, there has been debate, as you know, inside your party about why Democrats are losing seats in the House despite President-elect Biden's victory. Some closer to the center, like Abigail Spanberger and Connor Lamb, blamed the left for pushing ideas they said were outside the mainstream. And others, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but also outgoing Alabama Senator Doug Jones, argue that Democrats need to do a better job of countering the Republican narrative. So I wonder, Congressman, where do you fall? Which do you think is right?
Well, I think that although we're still analyzing what took place during the election, it's clear this election was a referendum on Donald Trump. And in the parts of the country where he did well, his party did well down ballot. Where he didn't do well, he didn't do well. His candidates down ballot didn't do well. It was a nationalized and polarized election. And so, I don't think it's really constructive to be fighting amongst ourselves. Every member of our caucus adds tremendous value. They have great talent, and many are bringing out young voters and motivating progressives to show up at the polls in numbers like we have never seen, and they rightfully can claim a share of Joe Biden's victory. And other members of our caucus that come from these very conservative places, they have figured out how to win there, and they are also deserving of our respect and our attention. So we need, I think the challenge for us is we need to tap the talent of each and every one of our members. We also need to make sure that we stay united because we will have a smaller majority and the country remains very polarized. But I have every confidence that we will meet those challenges and move the country forward under Joe Biden's leadership and that of Speaker Pelosi.
Do you think issues like defund the police help or hurt Democrats this cycle?
I don't think that we should allow ourselves to be defined or labeled by our opposition. I don't think we should define ourselves by the negative attacks that our opposition makes. The challenge for the Democratic Party is an affirmative challenge, and that is that millions of working families throughout the country are struggling to get by. Millions more in the middle class are at risk of falling out of the middle class. The economy is simply not working for much of the country. And that is the paramount challenge. It's not only the challenge for the Democratic Party, it's the challenge for the country. And we need to focus, I think, on solutions to that. Frankly, my philosophy is you leave no family behind, you leave no community behind. And we need an approach that meets the needs of Americans to get by during this pandemic. But also, as we build our economy back, we have to build it back better so it provides opportunity for all Americans in every part of the country.
As we mentioned, you are the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Have you spoken to the Biden transition team at all about a possible role in the administration, either as an intelligence official or otherwise?
You know, the only thing I would comment on in terms of the administration or anything else for that matter in terms of my own future is I want to be of service to my community, my state, my country, and I'm happy to serve in whatever way I could be most productive. So I will leave it at that, but I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've had and look forward to continuing the work.
All right, House Intelligence Committee Chair, Congressman Adam Schiff. Congressman, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.